boxing news. Okay, we'll start with this. I'm sure most of you have heard by now. The news broke earlier today that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom have made it official. Alicia Baumgardner, reigning IBO and WBC super featherweight champion, has now entered into a multi-fight deal with Matchroom, who will be co-promoting her alongside King's Promotions, who was her promoter going into that Terry Harper fight. In reference to the newly inked pact, the newly crowned reigning champion stated, "I have no doubts I am the top dog in my weight class, and it's only a matter of time before I have all the belts to prove it. Nobody is going to stand in my way. I've worked very hard to stay and make my mark. I will continue making history in the sport of boxing. I am delighted to welcome Alicia to the team," said Hearn. Alicia provided one of the KOs of the year against Terry and made the boxing world stand up and take notice that she'd arrived at the top table. Alicia is a terrier in the ring and demonstrated her pop with that stoppage, but she's also a huge personality with real charisma. She is the full package, and she's going to have big fights in 2022 and beyond to prove it. For many of us, this was expected.
The boxing gods have answered my prayers.
Was my wish, my desire, to see a fighter like Alicia Baumgardner boxing on a major platform like DAZN under a major promotional banner like Matchroom. And that has come to pass. Moving forward, she will officially be a Matchroom fighter. And as I've stated in any previous videos, I expect there to be at least 2 fights before the Michaela Mayer fight. I expect that Alicia might box France's own Eleme Khaled and follow that.
She's victorious, and I think she will be.
With a unification match against South Korea's own WBA super featherweight champion, Hyun-Mi Choi. That is the pecking order. That's what I expect to see in 2022 ahead of a Michaela Mayer undisputed showdown. And what Michaela Mayer does in the mean-in-between time, well, that's just Michaela's fucking problem.
Because she had the chance to fight Alicia for a while.
Before and after the Vanessa Bradford fight. The story was that the Nevada State Athletic Commission would not approve Alicia Baumgardner as an opponent choice for Michaela Mayer. They ended up approving Erica Farias instead. Erica, who was coming off of consecutive losses, if you can believe that. But even after that, even after Alicia Baumgardner rebounded off a stint of inactivity with Vanessa Bradford, if Michaela wanted her, she was right there for the taking. As it stands, Terry Harper afforded Alicia that opportunity, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Matchroom's going to be promoting Alicia now.
I've been telling you guys this whole time that this is about more than just a unification match. Alicia Baumgardner and her marketability, her boxing skill, can be used to spearhead the effort to advance women's boxing in America, to take it to places it hasn't been taken before.
We've seen the British Renaissance in women's boxing.
To where many doors are opening for many girls, and that many more doors do need to be open. Better still, the state of the sport is in a much better place than it was in previous eras. As we speak, there are 2 major platforms in the UK that have their own stable of female fighters, not exclusive to Matchroom. Sky and Boxer, they got their Valkyries as well.
Now what I want to see is something like that happen here in America.
Golden Boy Promotions, they have their stable that features Sinicia Estrada, Marlene Esparza, Sulem Urbina, Annabelle Ortiz, Arely Musinho.
I'm not sure if Franchon Cruz is still with them.
But there still are that many more girls that need opportunities, and Golden Boy Promotions ain't got all the same resources as a Matchroom. In addition to Alicia Baumgardner, who they just signed, I would like to see the people over there at Matchroom invest in the career of a young fighter, a southpaw, a pure boxer that goes by the name of Zarina McCoy. I would also like to see them invest in the career of a young
lightweight that fights out of Hillsboro, Oregon.
Goes by the name Diana Estrada. Zarina McCoy, she sports a professional record of 9 wins, no losses, no draws. Diana Estrada, she
sports a pro record of 2 wins and no losses, no draws.
And these are young fighters that exhibit a lot of ability, a lot of boxing savvy, and they're young fighters in their early 20s, so they got high ceilings and lots of upside.
Zarina McCoy is only 20 years old.
Diana's 22, and because these fighters are so young, there's ample time there and opportunity to groom them and sharpen them to be tomorrow's champions.
If they start today.
Another fighter that I'm very high on, a tad bit more mature than either Zarina McCoy or Diana Estrada, Melissa Odessa, who very recently inked a pact with Split Team Management, joining the Empire stable of fighters. I think she would also be a great addition to the Matchroom stable of fighters, the Matchroom stable of Valkyries. I mean, if Matchroom thought enough of Shannon Courtenay, who ain't got the amateur background that Melissa has, if they thought enough of her to invest in her, then Melissa Odessa...
Don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you that Shannon Courtenay is a bad fighter.
I know there are a lot of people out there that got a lot of choice words when it comes to Shannon, but for what it's worth, I actually think she's a pretty good fighter. It's just that Melissa...
You ain't gotta be anywhere near as careful with Melissa.
You don't. She already beat a bantamweight champion earlier this year in what was only her 4th professional fight.
The only reason she didn't win the title was because it was just above the bantamweight limit.
The IBF requires a fighter to have at least 5 professional fights before so contesting for one of their titles at a given weight, and at that time, Melissa only had 4 fights. We see what Matchroom was able to do for the women in the British boxing scene. I would like to see what Matchroom can do for the women in the American one, in the American boxing scene. I would like to see an American set of Matchroom Valkyries moving into 2022, because I believe these fighters, spearheaded by Alicia Baumgardner, who they just signed, I think these fighters can make a huge difference. When it comes to Alicia, Alicia is every inch the fighter that I've been telling you guys she was, and there are big opportunities for her. When it comes to Alicia, she has to now be careful not to settle into her big win over Terry Harper. She has to realize...
Just to stay focused and stay hungry, because there's more work needs doing.
She's just become a prime target for a lot of girls out there that don't got a major promoter like Matchroom behind them. This is one of those situations where the hunter effectively becomes the hunted, and how this is handled is what distinguishes good fighters from great fighters. There's winning a belt and becoming a champion, but then there is also staying one, and that's not as easy. Congratulations to Ohio's own Alicia Baumgardner, who I look forward to seeing more of in 2022. Now the news per a tweet from Michael Benson. I'm sure many of you have heard by now. The WBC have reportedly now stated that the Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte purse bid split will be 80-20 in Tyson Fury's favor, and that the fight will go to purse bids on January 11th if no deal is agreed. And given that split, Frank Warren's resources in the UK, I'm pretty sure they won't reach a deal.
80-20 is less than what they offered Dillian.
And if you want to know what I think about that, and you're here, so I'll assume that you do, I believe that the WBC is trying to help Tyson Fury out in this situation by offering Dillian Whyte less than what he was offered by Tyson Fury's people. I believe that this is a last-ditch effort to either dissuade Dillian Whyte from pursuing the fight or get him to play ball
and accept that initial low ball offer.
$5 million up front at 25% of the upside is a low ball offer to a guy like Dillian Whyte, because Dillian Whyte in the last 3 years has sold out more times in the UK than Tyson Fury has, sold more pay-per-views in the last 3 years in the UK than Tyson Fury has. And I'm not telling you that Tyson Fury has no marquee value. I'm not telling you that Tyson Fury can't do decent numbers. What I am telling you is in the last 3 years, he hasn't fought in the UK. He hasn't sold out any venues, any arenas, any locations. He hasn't, because he hasn't fought there.
That's just a fact.
Tyson Fury has not fought on UK soil since the first Wilder fight, and that was way back when, in 2018, whereas Dillian Whyte...
He sold out the O2 Arena fighting Joseph Parker.
He's been on pay-per-view plenty of times. He sold more pay-per-views in the UK than Tyson Fury has. That's just the fact.
In the last 3 years, it is.
So how could your starting offer to that guy for a fight this size be the kind of money that he's already making without you? That's not a serious offer, and that means you're not serious about doing this fight. You can't be.
What do you think? Dillian Whyte's never seen $5 million before.
His reported purse for his last fight, the Alexander Povetkin rematch, which he won, was in that neighborhood. It was something to the tune of £4 million, which, when you apply the conversion rate, is closer to $5 million. $5 million American.
Listen, we've been all through that.
The silver lining here, the saving grace, the light at the end of the tunnel for Dillian Whyte is now the clock is ticking. On January 11th, if these guys haven't reached a deal by then, the fight goes to a purse bid. Frank and Bob, they don't want that, because if it goes to a purse bid, in can come Eddie Hearn with that Matchroom wallet and that Matchroom budget.
You think those guys want Tyson Fury boxing under the Matchroom banner over on DAZN?
Even in a one-off situation, do you guys actually think that that's what Frank and Bob want to see?
It's 2 huge egos right there.
3 if you count Eddie Hearn's, and that's not saying that Eddie Hearn doesn't have big ego of his own, perhaps he does. But in this situation, if these guys don't reach a deal, and it's not looking like they will, given this purse split, if these guys don't reach a deal by January 11th, the fight goes to a purse bid, and Matchroom can step in and outbid both Frank Warren and Bob Arum.
Don't forget they wanted to do the Dillian Whyte fight in the UK.
That's what they said. And don't forget that in the UK, Frank Warren is Tyson Fury's promoter. And Frank Warren in the UK, he ain't got it in the budget to pay no Dillian Whyte no $10 million up front. You and I both know Frank Warren ain't got it like that.
All you gotta do is take a trip over to Company House to see what Frank Warren's working with.
Compared to Eddie Hearn and Matchroom in the UK, need I remind you that Matchroom isn't exclusive to the UK boxing scene the way that Queensberry is. Matchroom is global.
Now, I'm not even sure that these are all of their resources. I think these are just their UK finances.
You think about that, you think about how very recently DAZN, as a platform, added pay-per-view functionality to their repertoire, and how they can bill Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte as a domestic UK pay-per-view to add that much more revenue to the pot. You think about all that, and then you think about Frank and Bob, you think about Tyson Fury, and you ask yourself, is this fight really going to get over the line, or will Fury vacate the green belt?
If a bidding war ensues, you think Frank and Bob have got it in the budget to beat Eddie?
Assuming there even is a bidding war, because who says Tyson Fury don't throw that green belt in the air before that purse bid rolls around?
I do think the WBC is trying to dissuade Dillian from pursuing the fight with this split.
That, and what they might want, is for Dillian to accept the deal offered to him by Tyson Fury's people, so that Tyson Fury's people can be the ones that do the fight if the fight gets done. That's what I think.
So that if by some chance Dillian Whyte accepts, it happens on their platform.
So that they can reap the benefits, so that they can do the fight. That's what I think. And with a purse bid looming, that deadline hanging over Frank and Bob and Tyson Fury's heads, it's conceivable to me that Tyson Fury might so decide to throw that belt in the air and absolve himself of this responsibility. And if he does, what are people going to say? How are his sycophants going to explain?
I don't know if he's going to throw the belt in the air, but if he does...
No guarantees he gets to fight Andy Ruiz. We've talked about that in a previous video. An easier fight to make would be the Robert Helenius fight. The problem is, Robert Helenius is a guy that Dillian Whyte beat years ago. So what, you skip out on Whyte to fight a guy that Whyte beat 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, his fans are going to have a hell of a hard time explaining that.
I told you what Tyson Fury wants. What he wants is to play it safe, fight a handpick to preserve himself so that he's intact for the winner of Joshua versus Usyk 2. And Dillian Whyte, win or lose, can make things rough for Tyson Fury, perhaps rougher than he'd like. I'm not telling you Dillian beats Tyson, I'm just telling you he's going to make him work for it.
And he doesn't want to have to, not ahead of what could be a bigger fight.
That purse bid, that January 11th deadline, that's only a little over 2 weeks away. You do realize that. This is all going to come to a head very soon.
Tyson Fury's going to have a decision to make.
Finally, Russian promotional company RCC posted this lengthy read by way of their Instagram account
discussing a potential Bivol versus Ramirez fight.
And it reads, "This boxer has been writing all kinds of nasty stuff for a long time. I don't like it very much. Dmitry Bivol is ready to fight Ramirez." WBA light heavyweight champion Dmitry Bivol of the world explained why he wanted to share the ring with undefeated Mexican Gilberto Ramirez of the United States. A long time ago, when Ramirez left ESPN from Bob Arum, he had an option. He even talked to Eddie Hearn, but something didn't work for him and he didn't subscribe. Then our fight could happen. He then started working with Golden Boy. They wanted to box with us in December, the exact date he had, but then we already had agreements with RCC Boxing Promotions. Now, as I understand it, they have become mandatory contenders for my title. This is cool. I would gladly box Ramirez, even though he has no belt. This boxer has been writing all kinds of nasty stuff for a long time. I don't like it much. As a boxer, there is also interest in him, because he has a big record. He was a champion at a different weight. This is an interesting fight for me. I feel the excitement in this match. Let us remind you that Dmitry Bivol and the promotional companies RCC Boxing and Boxing World signed an agreement on joint work. In 2022, Dmitry will fight 2 battles in Russia, in Yekaterinburg and Chelyabinsk.
Not the first time RCC said that Dimitri's going to fight 2 times over there.
And it wouldn't be the first time that a fighter had to travel to Russia in order to receive their world title shot, their world title opportunity. Not that long ago, we saw Anthony Yarde travel to Chelyabinsk, Sergey Kovalev's neck of the woods, back when Sergey was WBO champion. We saw Anthony Yarde have to go there in order to receive his title shot. He got sat on his back pocket. A lot has happened since then, and I could see a situation to where if certain other fights don't happen for Dimitri,
The Gilberto Ramirez fight might happen.
we talked about that in my previous video. Now, I don't know what Dimitri's relationship with Matchroom is at this time. I don't know that he's still with them or he's not with them or they're on the cusp of that relationship ending. I mean, I really don't know because he seems to have walked into a promotional pact that will see him fight in Russia at least 2 times next year.
You think about this situation.
If Dimitri don't fight Artur next and WBA orders that fight between Dimitri and Zurdo, I don't think Golden Boy's got the resources to bring Dimitri back to America.
Not if Dimitri wants the fight to happen in Russia.
Now, Matchroom, I think they can compensate Dimitri for his troubles. I think they have it in the budget to bring him back here stateside for that fight so they could do it as a Matchroom USA show. However, I don't know what his relationship with Matchroom is at this time.
And if there is no relationship, Zurdo might have to travel.
Or if there is a relationship, but Dimitri is insistent on the fight happening in Russia, Zurdo might still have to travel. And it will be up to RCC to foot the bill for the fight, pay for the operational costs, and
Pay the fighters.
pay Zurdo. Let's say that dollar amount isn't to Zurdo Ramirez's liking. Let's say that Zurdo don't like the money. I could see Zurdo walking away, and I could see Zurdo fighting, I don't know, Sergey Kovalev, who Golden Boy Promotions, I believe, still owes a fight. Now, as far as Bivol versus Ramirez, I already told you. I favor Dmitry Bivol to win that fight here in the United States or over there in Russia, especially over there in Russia. I favor Dmitry to win that fight on points because Zurdo's a good fighter. He's solid. He was a solid champion at 168 pounds, and he's a solid fighter here at 175 pounds, though he's never been anything to write home about, anything remarkable.
He's a statuesque mid-range to inside fighter.
Decent power, not much of a jabber. He's a southpaw, but him not being a jabber, him being a southpaw, doesn't matter all that much. And Dmitry Bivol wouldn't be in unfamiliar territory with Zurdo. He wouldn't be in unfamiliar terrain. He's already faced more proven fighters at this weight than Zurdo Ramirez, Jean Pascal, Joe Smith Jr. Both those victories aged well. Not that long ago, he boxed Craig Richards of the UK, a statuesque light heavyweight the same way that Zurdo is a statuesque light heavyweight. He boxed that guy to a decision quite comfortably.
Did the same thing with Umar Salimov afterwards.
So he's not rusty. If the fight happens, I favor Dmitry to win that fight.